its value, and it is not based on inflation. So let me begin. First key takeaway, the value of Robert's $17 million apartments, which was the 300 apartment unit. It is not based on inflation, and it is not based on the price of the building of the apartment houses. Second key takeaway is, while price is important, Robert is not counting on the price going up due to some magical or unforeseen market conditions. Lesson number 3, Robert is not counting on increased net worth to feel good or worry about market crash and feel bad. Therefore, that is why Robert does not concern him that much when there's a boom and a bust in the market condition. Lesson number 4, the value of the apartment houses is based on the rent his tenants pay. Lesson number 5, the true value of the apartment houses is based on the value his tenants think the apartment houses is worth. Lesson number 6. So for example, if our tenant or renter thinks that his apartment is a good value at $500 of rent per month, then that is the property's value. Lesson number 7. If we can then increase the perceived value of our apartment houses to our tenants and not the market, we have increased the value. We have increased the value of our apartment houses. Now, on the other, lesson number 8, if we increase the rents without the increase in the perceived value, then what would happen? Our tenants moves to another apartment down the street. So that means the value, what your tenant thinks the perceived value is that you've done in your building apartments, in your community, in the community of your apartment, is very important. Lesson number 9, the value, therefore, of your rental real estate, in this case, Robert's 17 million, the 300 apartment units, is dependent on jobs, salaries, demographic, local industry, supply and demand of affordable housing. Lesson number 10, in a housing crash, a crash where the value of your real estate goes down, and everywhere you go, the value of the real estate goes down, the demand for rental units often goes up, because what happens to those primary home owners, they could not afford to pay for their mortgage, so they have to either sell it. If they cannot sell it, then they go for foreclosure or bankruptcy, and therefore they still need a place to live. And so now they find rental apartments to go live. They have to go downsize. So then the demand for the rental units during a housing crash often goes up, which means the demand and the rents, they go up. Lesson number 11, if rents go up, if your rents go up, the value of your rental real estate may go up. Even if the value of the residential means single family homes where you are the primary home owner. This is where you live. This is not a rental. This is your primary home. So even if the value of the residential real estate is coming down. Lesson number 12. This means that the 300 apartment units offers Robert two things: control and leverage. Lesson number 13. Robert's job as an investor on this 300 units is to increase the leverage from 1:4 to possibly 1:10. So what does 1:10 mean? So let's say, for example, 1:4 is you're using $100,000 of your own money that can purchase $400,000 of apartments. Now, if it's 1:10, your 100,000 can now purchase $1 million of apartment units. In this case, his 1:4, which he bought for 100,000, he was able to buy for 400. Now you've increased the value of your 100. It became 1 million. That's 1:10 mean. It means the doubling of the value of your property, the 300 units, through operations. So what does operation means? This is where you have the control of increasing income and decreasing your expenses, upgrading your property's value, putting in washer and dryer. This is done through the operations. And this is where you can increase your leverage 1:10, according to the book, doubling the value of your property through the operations. So increase income and decrease the expense. And you are not affected by the markets. Lesson number 14. We can increase the value of our apartment houses as long as we have control. Lesson number 15. Many financial advisors will tell us higher returns means higher rewards or higher risk. In other words, leverage, they say, the financial advisors say, leverage is risky. Robert says this is false. Now, lesson number 16. Leverage is only risky. It is only risky when people invest in assets that we have no control. We do not control it. And it is only when we do not have control is leverage risky. Lesson number 16. If the people have control, then leverage can be applied with very little risk. Lesson number 18. The reason why most financial advisors say that higher returns means higher risk is because they sell investments that allow very little control. Lesson number 19. Robert's 300 apartment unit is a good investment to use leverage because Robert has control over the 300 apartment units operation. Operation means increasing income collected through rents. Operation is increasing our income. Operations, therefore, of your apartment units determines the value of your apartment houses. Lesson number 20. This is why Robert is famously known as your house is not an asset, it is a liability. This is why the single family home, our primary home where we reside. Now, if you do have a lot of money, you can buy single family homes. But if you do not have money, I would consider, think about what Robert is suggesting, why a single family home, our primary home, is not an asset. It is a liability because it takes money away from our pocket. But if we compare the single family home that we live in, compare it to a 300 apartment units, an investment, an asset. Asset means they put money into your pocket. So if we compare a house, our primary home, a house is not a good investment. Why? Because the leverage is risky in a single family primary home because we have no control. We have no control over our primary home residence. The value of our primary home, we have no control of the value of our primary home. And the primary home is based on the market and the purchasing power of our currency. What that means simply is that if our neighbors' houses was in foreclosure or in bankruptcy, we are at the mercy of our the market. So if their value goes down, if the single family home of our neighborhood goes down because they could not afford to pay for the mortgage because they lost their job, then even if we're paying our mortgage every month on time without any miss, our property's value will go down. The primary home's value will go down. Our primary home's value would go down. Because why? We are affected by the market and the purchasing power of the currency, of our currency. So those are my 20 lessons learned. Let me know what your key takeaway is in the comment section below, and stay tuned for more Alka and Ria show.